Ground we're going to be going to. You can see in the previous game, after Fnatic was able to take that victory, they stepped away for a little bit and just kind of, I suppose, recomposed themselves after taking that very, very impressive game #1 win, after setting themselves up for victory. How they did, Jay-How?
They like to please the crowd, apparently. They put on one heck of a show there in game 1. So no surprise, Fnatic fan favorites from last year in this place erupted. Like, I'm putting on my headset, I'm like, I cannot hear what the game sound here, because this crowd is going wild for Fnatic.
And it's absolutely deafening in the building at the moment, with all the seats seemingly full at the moment here in the Anaheim Convention Center, Grubby.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing, and I'm still just thinking about what is MVP Black going to do next. Are they going to take the first pick, or are they going to take the map? If they do take the map, I expect Tomb of the Spider Queen. Two reasons. MVP Black is showing a lot of 5 fingers to a fist composition, a lot of sustain and heavy push. Fnatic are really good at globals, and they love it. So you go to a small map, prevent the false start backdoors, and it's also happening to be the most picked map for MVP Black in this tournament so far, Tomb of the Spider Queen. Let's see.
Let's find out. We're going to find out what our second battleground is going to be. Currently, Fnatic leads 1-0. It will be Fnatic taking us to Infernal Shrines.
So normally, as I mentioned before, Korea will almost always take first pick, and I think it's sometimes actually a weakness of Korea in terms of strategic depth, is to always take first pick and to give the battleground choice to your opponents. And something that we see MVP Black choosing here yet again, their map ban, we didn't talk about it too much again, Warhead Junction. They will ban that map against any team. And let's see what they want to make of this draft. They need to make this first pick worth it.
Game #2, let's go into the draft. Fnatic leads 1-0 against MVP Black here, and the first to 3 wins will be crowned our world champion.
The whole thing about this is by not taking the map choice, this again is a battleground that plays towards Fnatic's style. They have no hesitation on picking the larger battlegrounds, unlike Sky Temple, which you tend to have the same fights. Infernal Shrines, early game, you can kind of avoid that. And MVP Black coming out with a first pick Greymane.
Really curious how this is going to play out for Fnatic now. MVP Black is drafting a lot more. Normally, at least we can already tell from the first pick. And, you know, in this reverse situation, Korea, MVP Black in this case, might have wanted to draft into something like a Tracer Morales, some sort of really strong comp that can deal with the wave clear that Greymane does provide. Let's see what Fnatic wants to take us to here. Dahaka was their go-to after seeing the Abathur pick, but we might see that a little bit later now on Infernal Shrine, since we're not starting off with that global for Black.
Now, when a team picks up their warrior first, it's about how you start engagements, how you control the pace of the game. When you go support first, usually it's a support choke style. Support also to counter the type of damage that comes out. But drafting assassin first while banning ETC is a very strange pattern. That makes me wonder, you're happy to give away Muradin, the top 2 contested warriors. It's going to be a Nubarak. Fnatic doesn't want to play into whatever hand MVP Black is handing them, because it's the most obvious one. Maybe not for the map per se, but the warrior prioritization. And so MVP Black, I think with Greymane, they're probably planning Tyrael, or maybe even Stitches.
I would love to see the Tyrael play here with MVP Black running perhaps even the build that we've seen from Dami in the past, used in Sweden, going into that Wizened Duelist with the Eyes in the Dark, the Wolfheart at level 1. Very popular in Korea. We've seen a movement towards Quicksilver Bullets in recent times. Going to take Kharazim and Muradin here, though, wanting to make sure they don't get support choked right now. I think this is definitely going to be a double support composition. So Abathur looked to be banned here again for Fnatic.
When I was getting ready to come to the stage earlier, I ran into Sake backstage. He said, Fnatic looks really strong. I said, yeah, they do. And he said, you told us you were going to win no matter what. He said, we will. And then I said, well, how's it going to work? He said, well, we practiced against them a lot. We know what they like to run. They know what we want to run. We feel more confident. And leading up to this, I watched all of the Breeze's ETC games. We talked about bad bidding earlier. 34% kill potential on a power side, which means every time Breeze is landing, they have the proper follow-up with their composition. I got a feeling MVP Black respects Breeze. That was the highest kill participation of everybody across EU and NA coming into this tournament.
That's a really cool stat, Jay-How. I'm going to slap you back with another stat here.
Hit me with it.
A Nubarak 5-0 in the entire HGC opening week and the grand finals here.
Isn't it mostly Fnatic?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And who's playing him?
There you go.
There you go. Take that stud.
Yeah, I think that Anubrak offers so much, and it's not about the cocoon that people always point to. I think oftentimes it's just simply about displacement, and Anubrak can quite literally cut a team fight in half with his stuns. There's always the follow-up potential there, and Korean teams are known for coordination, moving almost like death balls around the map in these fights, and I think that Anubrak does very well against that type of play style because you do kind of cut the team in half, focus these targets. We saw great focus fire on Cursed Hollow with the 7-side strike, for example. Not available in this case, but Fnatic is great at isolating targets. Black seems a bit stumped here. I'm going to go ahead and ban out the Genji.
I think that makes sense. Genji, Rhaegar, and Nubarak, great kill potential. It's also telling that Black removes 2 picks of Fnatic last game, Greymane, Karazim, that put so much pressure on a single target with those double percentage-based damages.
Speaking of percentage-based damages, one thing we do see Wubby run a lot of on this battleground is the Leoric. And he has a lot of good control around the Shrine, good wave clear when Fnatic likes to split off and get that extra soak. They have a lot of things to play around with, but we also are going to have to mention Sonya at some point in this draft. Both teams love to play Sonya, and we've seen Rich on it, and this is one of her best maps by far because of the Shrine control and the things that Sonya does around there.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment, and I think it would be really strong to pick up Malthael as well if you are Fnatic as your 5th pick, assuming that Black would take the Sonya. It's tough to draft a Tyrael when your opponent does the Malthael as their last pick. You don't have that opportunity anymore. Let's see what Fnatic wants to do. It's going to be the Ana and Malthael. So going into Malthael early here. Now, Korea will always draft a Tyrael against Malthael if they feel like they can bring it into their composition, and MVP Black is no exception to that. So will they try to run this double tank into just the solo DPS Greymane range? Very risky. You lose the solo lane potential if you want to run that.
Can I just say how cool it is that Fnatic brings out Ana Malthael here? Ana has an ability called Nana Boost to give 200 mana.
Yeah.
You get the cooldown reduction on all basic abilities, and you get 30% spell power. Now, this doesn't work on percentage-based damage like Malthael's trait, but still, that means Q spam for days. You might as well wedge a coin under the Q button there as Malthael, because that's going to be so much damage and self-sustain coming out by Fnatic.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we'll see this combo. It was banned and feared throughout the tournament, and finally it does make it through here with the Genji ban being shown.
Ooh, all right, disengage, panic.
Yeah.
Disengage, but furthermore, it seems like MVP Black is trying to just counter whatever Fnatic's doing in the terms of like, all right, we saw you play global last game, we're going to do it this game. The fact that Malthael's picked up means that Wubby won't be going into that Leoric, who has the good rotations. We won't see the global Dahaka, but what we do have on the last pick is going to be some type of damage, some backline damage, and I wonder, will we see the Valda, a more traditional style, more towards what Quacknix plays? But there's a potential for some mage play here right now, especially with the Ana.
Li Ming still available here with Ana. I think Li Ming is insanely powerful. You don't always have to rely on that Malthael that Grubby was talking about. It's a very strong combo, one we haven't seen in action, but one that has been, as mentioned, banned.
There it is. That, I didn't want to say it and look like a fool, but this is something that they played before, and I thought it was going to be the back end of MVP Black's draft would determine what that style would be. That's why I said mage style, going to be on that back line, whether it was the Kel'Thas or Gul'dan. When there's not really that threat, the only threat is going to be in there is going to be Muradin and Karazim, potentially the Greymane, but Greymane has a lot to go through to get there. And if something like Gul'dan is well protected on the backside, that's good. And you talked about the Q, the Soul Rip on Malthael. Guess what? Bellflame, pretty short cooldown as well. You can spam Q on him as well with that nano boost. So there's a lot of play here.
Even some of MVP Black's bans and things like Genji and stuff like that aids and enables things like
100%. 100%.
I have this sense that MVP Black has been drafting scared from the beginning of this draft till the very end. So they play defensively. In comes Gul'dan, who is best countered by hypermobility and dive. Well, it's genius by Fnatic.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny because we saw the exact opposite in their series against Expert. You could see a very differing level of confidence here for Black.
As you said, like the whispers in the back were MVP Black after that win where Fnatic was able to take Ballistics. They were a little worried about what was coming into this. And, well, our commentators are ready to head into game number 2 here as we see if Fnatic can take a 2-0 lead or if MVP Black can bring it back.
Thank you, Kyleris. Fnatic has been hiding strategies this entire tournament through the group stage, even through the quarterfinals. And there were some times when we thought, ooh, this is risky. You lost a game to Freedom, you lost a game to Tempo Storm. But that has allowed them to come in fresh with strategies. And man, this looks scary, Dread.
It very much does. There are so many tools in the hands of Fnatic with this draft to deal with a double support, with the healing reduction from Ana, healing reduction coming from Malthael, and you have the opportunity to get that nano-boosted Horrify. There's so many amazing clumped-up antis double support tools that I am very scared here for MVP Black, but it's MVP Black. Never can count them out.
Well, let's get into it. I know everyone's excited for Game 2 on Infernal Shrines. We are headed in with Fnatic currently leading this series 1-0 in the best of 5.
They found themselves a pretty dominant Game 1, looking for another here in Game 2. In the blue, it is Fnatic. We have Quacknix on the Gul'dan. Schwimpy is on the Ana. We have Wubby playing Malthael. Next up is Smexy on the Rhaegar, and last was Breeze on that Anubarak. Let's hear it for Fnatic!
And in their red, their opponents taking a page out of Fnatic's playbook with the Globals. We're gonna have Kyocha playing Karazim, Rich on Falstad, Tist playing Murden, Sake on Brightwing, and finally Reset on his Greymane. Give it up for MVP Black! So strange to see MVP Black playing a highly global composition, but it makes sense to change things up when you see the Ana and Malthael come out wanting to have the strong disengage that Brightwing and Falstad can give you.
But then the proper response coming out from the members of Fnatic by just having so much wave clear within one hero that's not going to be too concerned with the pressure that MVP Black is now going to be able to have out there. It's really amazing, the drafting and thought process here for the members of Fnatic. You heard it from the analyst desk, but I share the same sentiment. It seems like they are just a level ahead of the members of MVP Black. And traditionally, you know, MVP has always relied on their mechanical skill to be able to overcome their opponent, and it seems like they are willing to do that here against Europe.
What do you think of this change-up in drafting? Do you feel like it is MVP Black drafting more scared? Because we know that the drafting has changed a lot for MVP Black since they brought in Noblesse to help them out in the drafting department as their coach.
I mean, MVP Black has been a very interesting team when it comes to their drafting. They used to be very rigid, very predictable, then kind of a little bit more wild where you'd see the, you know, Rich mixing things up with specific heroes here. Hold up, though. We got some action going in onto the top lane.
Yeah, the setup from that from Fnatic was beautiful, but having some escaping heroes there from MVP is going to come in handy. Kyoto was able to dash out, and Tisk waited around as long as he needed to anchor and then got himself out.
But, you know, the shorter end of, you know, the question and the answer that I was talking about before is it doesn't feel like I would use the word scared, but definitely maybe not enough planning ahead, right? With every decision, with every ban you make at this level of play, you need to be thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead, and it feels like they're drafting in the moment, if you will, Gilly.
Maybe it is that MVP Black really did feel like Ballistics would come out on top of the semifinal over Fnatic, but a 3-0 dominant fashion sleep dart there. Tis still being body blocked by Breeze. Finally, he gets around the corner, jukes out, and he is safe.
We're going to have ourselves the very first Shrine spawning into the middle lane. When it comes to who has Shrine control, who has some of the better wave clear, there is no better barbs going on to the Anubarak, so he's not going to be able to provide much. A lot of this is on Gul'dan, who's under a lot of pressure from that initiation. MVP find themselves the very first kill here in Game 2.
They may have a lot of globals, but they can still dive in, and a lot of that comes down to Reset, who is 9-0 in league play on his Greymane, one of his most potent heroes, and he will also be giving a lot of Shrine clear to the team as well.
And it's also paired with one of the most dominant strategies that we've seen out of the Eastern meta over the past couple of months. Having that Karazim, Murden, and the Greymane all synergizing with their initiation. Rich finds himself in a bad spot here down below. The healing reduction, barrel roll away, but the sleep dart just out of range.
Ooh, he felt that on his tail feathers as Rich gets away. MVP Black still commanding the lead in skeletal defenders on the Shrine. Fnatic hoping that they could use the time that MVP Black was focused in the mid to get that kill. It just wasn't quite enough.
And talking about that initiation style that MVP Black is kind of making, I do want to bring to light, on the note of drafting, that they maybe have just made a brilliant slight adjustment to that. Did you watch the last initiation, the Falstad flight, the Brightwing all at the same point? Rather than having 3 people that can immediately follow up on the Murden, what if it's all 5?
That's a good point.
That's the strategy it seems like MVP Black is going for. Granted, the more variables we increase to these initiations, the less likely they are to happen. One time it has worked here against Fnatic. How many more will we see here from MVP?
Now, it kind of reminds me of how Zero Panda used to play, too, when they were back in the Chinese region, getting as many globals as they can so they could collapse with all 5. We'll see how it works out for MVP Black. Now they have found a Rich. Burrow charges out at the perfect timing because of the Storm Bolt. Now Tis doesn't want to allow Quacknix get away while MVP Black moves into position, but not fast enough to net them a kill.
That was very good positioning there and making sure that they weren't getting the round on Tis. Rich gonna fly up towards top, and Malthael using that level 1 there to make sure he can scoot right on out. Oh, Sleeping Dart, nobody's around to get that follow-up. What I was trying to say before was just the positioning on that kind of retreat there, making sure Tis didn't have the opportunity to round his body over the kill target. It would have been very likely we would have been a dead Quacknix if Tis was just a pixel over to the left-hand side.
MVP Black recognized that Fnatic were starting to move down into the bottom lane, and importantly, they came down to try to help out Greymane just in case Reset needed it because he was soloing that Cosra camp in the bottom. They've also had a Mercenary camp in the mid, so they're setting up really well to have a strong push as we get ready for the next Shrine. All that remains is getting their Shaman camp in the top lane, and they're trying to use the camp to do whatever they can with it. It's a very common strategy that MVP Black loves to employ, is just get a camp and get even just a little bit of damage done, whatever they can to escort it along and start to bring down some of the structures. Any amount of structural damage is enough for them.
It matters a lot in a map like this, but hold up, in mid, Reset caught out a bit too far. Disengage in a couple of seconds. Brightwing's gonna get the teleport. Rich with that brilliant flight in. The members of MVP are going to be able to make it out, but it was very close there for a second.
Yeah, you can see just how long and how perfectly timed out the heal reduction was. First, Touch of Death from Malthael, then Biotic Grenade from Ana. That is a long amount of time where you can't even rely on something like a Divine Palm if you are not setting up correctly.
Kyocha got impaled.
Endangered now.
He doesn't have a heal. Is he gonna get the
Whoa,
tap?
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Not today. He goes down, and Fnatic could not have found themselves better timing as that top shrine is going to exist. They need to start it immediately if they have the interest of focusing on this Punisher, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. They're going to focus elsewhere onto the map because MVP Black is rounding those 10s and those heroics. It makes sense they want to forfeit this, but Rich may be out a smidge too far.
Yeah, and maybe not respecting that Fnatic would know that MVP Black wants to keep their globals in lane.
He interrupted it. Now the Sleep Dart's going to be in position. He can't make it out.
He's
Swimpy
gone.
Over the wall, snipes it down, and Rich is out of here.
Fnatic finds a second kill, starting the stagger deaths of MVP Black. All MVP can do is try to clear out this shrine and try to maintain composure in the face of a Fnatic who has found person after person here against MVP Black in the mid game.
It's very interesting whenever we get to see Rich on those side laners that are not as beefy. With the very first time we saw Rich kind of venture into those side lanes, it always was with those Chens, with those very heavy health bars focused heroes. But every time we see him go to the kind of squishies, those Falsteds, he does become a very prime target for his opponents. And I expect Fnatic to keep up that pressure on him constantly throughout this game.
And we should expect Rich to respond to that by playing safer in lane as he can so that he doesn't get caught out anymore. MVP Black have stabilized. They get the Punisher. Tist dives forward on top of a lot of the members. Kyocha, the Brightwing pop up, horrified at the same time.
And they got on the other side of the wall, so they're able to make it out. Punisher leaps over. Cocoon goes down to Gus to disengage. MVP is now going to retreat out, but another skirmish. A lot of fireworks going on, but nobody ends up going down to the synergy here of MVP Black. They have a lot of tools to choose which fight they do want to take, and until Fnatic applies enough pressure onto the map, essentially MVP Black gets to volunteer every type of initiation that Fnatic can force.
But we haven't really gotten to see the full effect of Fnatic just yet in teamfights. Not a single Tormented Souls has come out. So Fnatic, if they can get that set up, may be seeing a fight that goes a way different way for MVP Black. MVP go back and start the cycle, the endless cycle that they have with mercenary camps in between objectives. You see it on Dragonshire, you see it here, just trying to make sure that they can get some push going somewhere and get an advantage out of one of them.
Yeah, and on a map like Infernal Shrines, it matters so very much because the objective's just not very good at sieging. It helps with team fighting and kills, but if you have a front wall to be able to block you and the rest of the members, Dwarf Toss over, it's going to have a bad time on a map like Infernal Shrines. You can see MVP always trying to question which initiation can they take, but never fully really kind of pulling the trigger here in this game. Again, giving a lot of respect over to the members of Fnatic.
Falstad is pushed just about as far as he should in that top lane, so he'll start to move back, going down with the team. Fnatic have Rhaegar in the bottom trying to solo the camps, and he'll get it in time, but the setup from Tist, he really wants this Rhaegar kill. Smexy, though, runs out in the Ghost Bolt form. MVP Black very close to the 13 talent tier.
They managed to achieve the 13 talents here. I would assume they're going to apply that pressure towards the middle fort as they have been whittling away at it over the long run here in this game. But other than that, the next major map objective, the next shrine, will be spawning as Fnatic rounds it, outside of any major, kind of wild picks here and there into this game. And so either team, it's really just who's going to pull ahead over the shrine phase, who gets the biggest advantage over these structures.
Mid really good for MVP Black since they've done so much fort damage there. Reset finishing Incendiary Elixirs, that's super good as well for MVP Black. Everything coming up aces despite the fact that they lost those 2 earlier stagger deaths. Making sure that they could get the shrine up top and take down the fort has stabilized them. As we are getting into 13 for Fnatic and the next shrine phase. MVP Black gets there first.
And so I noted a bit of the shrine control on the side of Fnatic early game, right as Quacknix went down. He is all of their shrine control. He has to move out to get that Fel Flame off, and MVP is going to look to rinse and repeat what they did over the first shrine phase. Get that global initiation. The minute you watch Tist all in there, everyone is going to get that follow-up. Quacknix has to find a way to survive here.
Brightwing as the person to shift in. That shield that you get from Phase Shield will be integral if the target gets all of the heal reduction from the team. Maybe what keeps them alive. Tist goes in, diving on top, look for the Brightwing because she goes separating, and Gul'dan is taken out.
Polymorph immediately onto Wubby as he got the Tormented Souls. He's blinking, dropping a lot of the heals. He's actually keeping himself alive very long. Disengage drop there from Reset, the flash thrown out, but Wubby's going to drop down. Tist is moving forward, Stormbolt and a couple, and it looks like they are going to find, nice Impale. 2 kills for MVP Black.
And
holding it on.
It surely would have been a third. It would have been Schwimpy, but Breeze coming in, saving the team. That is all, at least, that MVP Black will get. But the problem now is with those 2 kills, MVP Black will get a Punisher, and the fort is already down in the mid as they press forward for keep damage.
The members of Fnatic have to be scared here. They do have the Horrify still available. As the Punisher jumps over the wall, it's going to be a pretty easy bait here for Fnatic, but Tist, he's going to follow up very quick. Sidewalls drop, though, so he is a pretty easy escape. 16 Talent Tier is going to drop after one of these turrets, though, and that is when MVP is going to pull the trigger if they ever are going to.
Has the Gust, has the Emerald Wind. Resets out of here.
Fnatic's getting very aggressive considering it's just a false set off into the side lane. Again, trying to punish Rich here, but the game sense here, the hesitation, one time were they able to catch him off, and since then, really being aware that that is the go-to for Fnatic to come back into this game, is finding themselves a free fall stat.
That's also Fnatic, right? We talked about that yesterday when they were playing Tempo Storm. If they can puff out their chest and force somebody away, even when maybe they shouldn't be able to do that, they'll try and see if they can. A lot of that's on Breeze. Breeze, who was given so much to get here to the global championship.
Another polybomb, he goes in right onto the Gul'dan Precons and Ancestral drop immediately to try and keep him alive. Horrify split off a Reset, but the damage on to Quacknix is too real. He is unable to survive. The Cocoon reveal goes on to Rich, and they're trying to walk away now.
Yeah, there's a lot of members low as Wubby gets in with the Tormented Souls. Despite losing Gul'dan, they're still hoping that they can get a kill, and they will tie it up 1-1.
Kyocha was unable to move in and actually get that palm off and keep Rich alive here. So the continuous fight here works out for Fnatic, even being down a 16 talent tier.
Such a good Ancestral, recognizing that it has to come out earlier, and then Rich getting put in the Cocoon wasn't fast enough to save the life of Gul'dan, but having Wubby be able to jump back in with the Tormented Souls, getting the Reaper's Mark in so they can get in the perfect position for that, and then the Impale from the side. Rich could only separate out so that he allowed the rest of his team to escape.
That's just such an uncharacteristic thing for MVP Black to do, to have that big of a statistical advantage and that big of a talent tier advantage, and to show any signs of weakness here. Once again, Fnatic holds on no matter what in their series. It just shows why they have been so dominant within not only Europe, but the world over the past 4 to 5 months.
You have to wonder what it feels like for MVP Black to be that dominant, and yet they went into the Eastern Clash, they lose to Tempest, they drop down, they go back up, then they lose to Ballistics, and yet they are so favored. And then they come here, and maybe they don't feel like they're favored, but everyone keeps talking about the strength of MVP Black. They don't lose a single series. They went something like 46-9 or 46-6 games in all throughout Phase 2. So when they win a fight like that, they get the first kill, and then Fnatic is still willing to bring it to them and then get a kill from that.
I wish I could tell you that it feels good, but I'm pretty confident that it is very devastating. The mentality for MVP Black has to be rather scared, and it feels like it is showing a little bit with their play here. But I do wonder, with that note, is there a breaking point where we see the opposite happen, where the snowball and morale works into their favor? That what is the one kill, the one moment? Does it take a game? Does it take a keep? What is it going to be where they suddenly go, nope, we're done Fnatic, we have the confidence back, we're ready to be MVP Black and get what we think is ours, an HGC Final Global Championship?
When they lost Cursed Hollow to Ballistics in the league play, the next game they played was very respectful, kind of the same. And then the minute that they got a win, the next game from there, completely different MVP Black, invading camps left and right, putting the aggression on from the very beginning of the game. So maybe it is that they can win this game, but I'm really scared if they don't win this game, that they may not be able to recover.
Rich is nowhere to get the flight immediately in here. The stun follow-up. Kyochi's going to drop the palm, but it seems like it's a bit too early. He dashes out, drops the heal, but the Ana grenade removes the healing. He's unable to survive, and Fnatic get another kill.
They get the kill. Breeze still chasing on.
Emerald
Sake
win.
uses Emerald Win, but Wubby has the Reaper's Mark now on Tist. He can go in. The turnaround polymorph. Malthael's blown up.
Rich does gust the members of Fnatic back. Breeze in a bad spot for a moment, but he's able to collect with the group here. They are not done. Fnatic is still very hungry here, wanting to try and force this fight before the 16 talents here. Nice sleeping grenade there is going to remind the members of MVP Black what Ana is capable of. But nothing gained too much here for Fnatic. Great turn, though, on the side of MVP. Willing to recollect themselves and not just give Fnatic what they could have had with that one kill.
Yeah, the Gust Isolation and Wubby being the only one who was within sight, wanting to use the Reaper's Mark while it was on, got a little hasty, and the punishment was severe from MVP Black.
We're 15 seconds away from impossible initiation. No, they don't even wait up. They're going to go in. Ancestral use and the Cocoon. Look at Rich trying to flank Quacknix. That's a 1v1 he can't handle. But we see Ana go down as well. MVP is open this up.
MVP are everywhere, and they are winning this fight. Rich flies in. Doesn't quite have Gust just yet, though. The rest of the team comes in. They've got Tormented Souls, but the immediate polymorph.
He's going to be able to get Emerald winded away. Breeze doesn't have that much mana. He drops it onto the Impale. It's going to keep him up. Wubby goes in. He gets the kill.
He gets the kill, but then MVP Black will bring down Malthael. Only a new Barak left as MVP Black march on to the keep.
They're going to be able to take out the keep, but is this where they stop? MVP, you know that they're going to be wanting to try and take this core. They go in, not able to land any crowd control onto Breeze. If Breeze was stunned by that, you know that that could have been, it would have been game. So very good job by him getting away. But MVP's got the 20 talents here, and we are only 15 seconds away from what I would expect to be the last Punisher of this game.
Yeah, MVP Black can go back, lick their wounds, get reset, and get to the shrine, clear out the waves. But it's Fnatic who has to clear out this bottom lane, now losing the keep. That is a problem because the shrine is in the top lane, so they need to deal with that. The towers, as our amazing observers showing, are already down in the top lane. So that is a bit of a headache for Fnatic, with MVP Black having 20 and having a presence on the shrine.
They caught a Cocoon onto the Brightwing. She has an Ice Block, but that's only a couple of seconds. Can the Gust get there in time?
Emerald Win, yes, they have the cleansing dash so that she can Emerald Win out. Continuous wins. Sake survives.
If he goes down there, the members of Fnatic can turn this game around. It secures themselves a Punisher for the Punisher. It secures the top fort. It may be the keep at that point in time. Very good job from MVP Black mitigating their losses here. Sake, though, he's still being hunted by Fnatic.
This little Brightwing that could live just barely. The Brightwing that could. MVP Black is dealing with Wubby, catches Wubby and takes him down. on top of the shrine.
He was going for a play to try and get that collapse up into that top shrub and flank the members here of MVP, but able to sniff it out, catch him off guard. Now a 45-second advantage for them. The 20 talent here, as we said before, and catapults are collecting there in the bottom lane. Fnatic is in a lose-lose scenario, it feels like here.
Flight.
There's the epic flight. No Gus yet here from Rich.
Not yet. Tist on the other side. Horrify is forced now to push Tish in a bad situation. Ancestor healing saves Quackix. Sake is still going down. Fnatic are able to get the 1 kill, but they're losing so much from it.
It's cost them an Ana later on. The dash is going to be dropped there, and Nubrak going in to try and stop them from moving to the core, but Rich is going to go and gust him right on in. MVP Black look like they have done it here, Gilly. It looks like they're going to be able to tie this one right on up.
Fnatic won their semifinal 3-0, and MVP Black did the same. But Dreadnought, I dare say, we've got a series on our hands as we are going 1-1 in this best-of-5 grand finals.
Sticking to what they know when their backs are against the wall, the Muradin, the Greymane, and the Kharazim synergy, but just with a bit of European flavor, maybe a bit of Fnatic or Ballistics, depending on which global team you want to refer to. But either way, MVP's innovation and execution was there, and it is the reason that we found ourselves at this time.
You just gotta be amazed at the synergy of MVP Black. We've talked about the synergy from Fnatic, but that cleansing touch to save Sake so that he could Emerald win and get out, that's the kind of play you expect to see in the grand finals of the HGC finals. That kind of play that we have known from the double support stylings of Korea.
I am absolutely confident that Grubby and friends have a lot more replays to be able to break down, so we're going to send it over to you guys and see what your thoughts were.
Indeed, strong control from MVP Black there in game number 2 with the gusts, with the winds, everything to try and stop the Malthael and the band of boys that we do have from Sweden. Very, very difficult for Fnatic to really get too much of a hold onto that game, Grubby.
Yeah, and plus it wasn't just used defensively. Before the draft, we were skeptical of how defensively MVP Black drafted, but they actually used Falstad and Muradin to jump in with Emerald, Wind, Brightwing bombs to play very offensive. There was a lot more dive than it looked like. We thought maybe Kharazim, Mira, Greymane can dive, but what about the backline? Well, they get right back. They get right back in there. And fights could only start still. Even having said that, they can only start in one way. It's if Muradin, Tist, gets the jump on either Ana, Rhaegar, or Gul'dan. Preferably Ana and Rhaegar at the same time. And I got a cool moment here as we jump into this. You know, we are in the situation, 1917, and at this moment, Fnatic has this mantra. Pause, as we pause it for a second. The mantra is, we are level 17 versus 19. It is equal talents. We have 3 keeps available still. And for all intents and purposes, this looks pretty okay, you know? Yeah, Malthael is dead, but so is Kharazim, and Falstad isn't here yet. So you don't feel a lot of pressure here. But this looks like breakfast to Tist, to Muradin. He's got that level 16 talent, so let's roll it forward and see what Tist is going to be doing. He's going to make an aggressive move there, gets the double stun, prioritizes on the Ana. Everyone is ready, but unfortunately here, Smex shows he's only human, hits the Ancestral on Breeze, who did Burrow Charge right in there. You know, that Ancestral hits on Shrimpy. There's actually enough space here to save the rest of the members and keep this a 4 versus 4, which could be the crux of a comeback for Fnatic. But these kind of Tist engages have been happening the entire tournament. He's the warrior to watch, I feel like, of this tournament, and just insane engages, always coming from where you least expect it.
I mean, regardless of if the supports were under threat, it felt like Gul'dan was under a lot of threat for the same reasons.
Jay and I were watching this, man. We saw Gul'dan get hit over and over and over again. Very aggressive positioning, very forward positioning, trying to get most of his damage off of his fells, actually. And as a result, got caught many times.
The whole thing about it is that it's not a strange hero to him, and we know him to be good, but it just felt like there was one time on the shrine in the middle where Gul'dan literally died in the middle of the shrine. It's generally a poke-style composition. He ended up going for Echoed Corruption instead of the extended Fellflame quest, and so he had to get in a little bit tighter in those areas, and it goes to what Grubby was saying, is that Muradin now had a little bit more primary target. Generally, when you play that style, it's more of a shrine control. He got very aggressive multiple times, and they punished Gul'dan heavily in that game.
Last thing I want to say on this also is the first time we've seen Rich kind of top lane Falstad, then eventually flying around very aggressive. And Groby and I were also watching the game pretty critical of some of the flights we saw, some of the gusts at the beginning of the game. But I do feel like at the end of it, Wintist was able to set up those opportunities. He came into his own a little bit in the hero. And as was said, by the casters there, was a little bit of European flavor in this MVP Black draft.
Definitely.
So adaptation being shown.
And it ties up the series 1-1. We're going to go to a short break here for the HGC.